So good afternoon to everybody watching this and anybody watching this subsequently. You're very welcome to our continuing webinar series for the Fulbright Irish Awards Programme for 26-27. Today's specific area we're going to focus on are all of the awards that are suitable for applicants in the agri-food, climate and environment sectors. And that's quite a broad bucket. We would certainly say to people, if you're anywhere touching off those areas, this is probably an appropriate webinar for you to watch. So thank you for coming today, and I'm going to thank my guests in advance. We have 3 alumni speakers here today to share their experience. So for anybody who's considering doing this, the people that are going to speak a little bit later are those who've been in your place and taken the steps and been successful and gone and done their Fulbright Awards. So we look forward to hearing about their journey and their story there. So today I'm going to talk very specifically about particular awards. I'll touch on awards as well that are going to be appropriate for anybody considering applying. Just a little bit about the commission that I am executive director of. We're the Ireland United States Commission for Educational Exchange. We run a number of programs, the biggest of which is the Fulbright program, which everybody today is likely here to hear about. We also fund Irish language in the United States for institutional Irish language programs in the United States, and for US citizens who come back to Ireland to speak Irish for a number of weeks or months over the course of the summer. We also run Education USA, which is a US State Department program which focuses on providing information for anybody who wishes to go to the United States to study at an undergraduate or postgraduate level. So it's a little bit different from the Fulbright program per se. It's advisory service. And in terms of the commission, we were set up almost 68 years ago now, and we've spent those 68 of 100, now 101 years of diplomatic relations between Ireland and the United States. We've been a big part of that, or certainly we like to think we've been a big part of it, but we certainly have been a part of it. And I mentioned Education USA program. So anybody who is interested in finding out more can look at on our website at fulbright.ie, Education USA. The actual commission then were funded by the Irish and the US governments and also by partners and sponsors across the board. So that allows us to operate. We've got a wide bucket and broad spectrum of awards. We are primarily funded by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade here in Ireland and the US State Department in the US. But we have significant funding from the Department of Gaeltacht for Irish language, as I mentioned, funding. The program was set up in 1946, post Second World War, based effectively on the horrors that had happened in the Second World War, and Senator J. William Fulbright set up the program. He corralled and cornered funding to set up the program as a result of the experience of the Second World War and his experience as a Rhodes Scholar. He had seen that, the horrors that had happened during the Second World War were to some extent related to people not knowing each other and seeing each other as something different, as other. So we felt that spending time in a country was the best recipe to work against that. And he felt that people working in education would be the greatest multipliers and have the greatest impact. So we set up an educational cultural exchange program. The expectation was at the beginning that there were 7 or 8 countries might join. Now there's about 165 countries are supporting this program globally. So I think that was wildly successful. In 1957, Ireland joined. The program was kept in-house in government departments. In 1991, then we followed the route of many other countries and we set up an actual commission. So the commission was put together to enact the legislation, which was based on a binational agreement between Ireland and the United States to run educational and cultural exchange programs, including primarily the Fulbright program. So talking specifically about Fulbright then, Fulbright, the opportunities, we are always looking for passionate and accomplished and interesting and well-versed and people who are interested in traveling and open to experiences. And that can be students, postgraduate students primarily, scholars. We would talk about doctoral, postdoctoral, professional doctoral applicants, artists, teachers, professionals of 5 years of relevant professional experience. And what people do is they carry out research or they study, they teach and they lecture in the United States. So this part of the program we're talking about today is for those in Ireland going to the United States. What do they provide? Well, there's the obvious monetary grant. We also have the not inconsiderable visa administration. We offer accident and emergency insurance cover. There's a big part of it can be cultural and professional programming. So that's an opportunity to engage and to experience even before you go, and to determine some of the elements that are going to be appropriate and useful to you in your time as a Fulbrighter. There is ongoing support through the Commission, through all of the government agencies that you can be involved with. You're linked as well to a global network of Fulbright alum. I say global, it's in 160 countries. So it's a widespread, and many people are part of that program. And finally, I guess it is a recognition of personal and professional excellence, and that's a badge of honor that all of our Fulbright alum can also carry through their time. It is an experience of a lifetime. It is a recognition of excellence. You are very much joining a Fulbright Irish family, but then you are also joining your global peers in a global Fulbright family. And you will find that Fulbrighters, when they meet each other, they've had a shared experience and a shared attitude, I think, has developed. And, this recognition of each other and the experience that they had, irrespective of whether it was in the same country or was a different country. There's definitely a global family feel to the Fulbright program. I really like this slide for the simple reason that I think it shows some of the gamut of the experience. Obviously, you consider this as an educational program and it's focused on the study or the research or the lecturing that's going to happen. That is certainly part of it. But I think what's more important and what is more long lasting is the experience that you would have. So I think in many ways, this slide encompasses what a Fulbright experience can often be like. And we'll have 3 speakers in a little while. I think we'll talk about their experience, and probably everybody's is unique, but I think there's a common theme that it has been an experience and something that's very memorable. So getting back to then the program and the application process, it is a journey that you start off on your own. But I will say, as we go through the presentation and get to the end, to say you don't have to remain on your own. There are lots of support, and we'd strongly recommend that you take up some of those supports. The application timeline, well, obviously the applications are open now. They're going to close on the 23rd of October. In November, December, we will carry out technical reviews. And in January, February, we will call people for interview. These interviews will be online interviews. And then between March and April, we should be in a position to make offers to anybody who's been successful. In terms of your planning, well, if you haven't started the process, obviously you need to look at our information across our website, and you can certainly reach out to us as well. Do consider the awards and the program and the award that you'll apply for. This is what today can be a little bit about as well. It'll be a final level of guidance, just to say these are all your options and these are things you can go for. Find a course or plan or research proposal. Hopefully you have a good idea already why you want to go to the States. And another inconsiderable part as well as research, what it means to be a Fulbrighter. It's such a broad spectrum, but really, what is the program about? What do you expect to get from it? What do you expect to bring to it? All of those aspects. I think you can skip past the register interest and really just start the process of application. You can learn as you go. You don't have to apply it's not a 1-hour application. There's time to fill in parts of the process of the application as you go ahead. Irish awards are open to Irish citizens, EU and UK citizens who have been in Ireland for 5 years. So that's the EU and UK citizens who've been 5 or more years proof of residency in the Republic. You should demonstrate a strong rationale for where you're going to in the United States. So it doesn't have to be necessarily that you've identified a really top-notch university that markets itself very well. It could be that there's a real reason why you want to go there. So we do want to know that. Explain why Fulbright and why not another program, or why not go by yourself or fund it through yourself. Why should it be the Fulbright program that should support you and this work? You have to comply with 2-year home rule based on the J1 visa requirement. After you've been in the States, you do need to spend 2 years back in Ireland, actually that's really just on the basis that if you wished in future to go and get a longer term residency, you're expected to have spent 2 years in the United States subsequently. You can't be a dual US and Irish citizen, and you cannot be living in the United States at the time of application. And the last thing is a little bit of a piece of string, but you cannot have recent extensive experience of studying or living in the US. And that can mean many things. So if you really have a query about that, you can reach out to us. If you studied many years ago, or you spent some time in the States many years ago, or you went on a visit, that's not going to really count. So, but if you have any queries, please do reach out to the Commission so that we can advise you on that. In terms of the broad spectrum of awards that are available, and in some sense, all of these are available to you, even in your sectoral differences. So you got the foreign student program, which is Irish people going to the States and are going to be considered part of the foreign student program. That's postgraduate. So you're going to study, or you're going to go join a course in the United States. Or if you're a scholar, you can have you either have you have your PhD or professional doctorate, or you are a professional, so you have 5 years plus residence experience. I should say the students program is always between 4 to 10 months. The scholar professional programs are 3 to 10 months. There are specialist awards and Fulbright Tech Impact Awards. Again, even for the people on this program, you might find that you have a technology that needs to go to the States, or a technology from the States bringing back to Ireland. So there's an overlap there with ICT. The FLTA program is for Irish language, so I don't think it applies here. But the last one to say is Fulbright EU Schumann Awards. They are between the US and across Europe. So Irish people are eligible to apply, students and scholars. They're typically for 9 months. The areas tend to be broader spectrum, but they can be across climate, they can be across environment, climate, agricultural, agri-food research, policies associated with all of those. So if you're not considering applying immediately for the Fulbright program from Ireland, you can look to our colleagues in Belgium. So you can look for the EU Schumann program there as well. So there are plenty of opportunities even within the program as it stands. I mentioned then just a little bit about the Scholar Professional Awards. As I said, 3 to 10 months, and then 4 to 10 months. There are different costs associated, or values of the awards, depending on the exact time you go for, where you go to, and how long you're going to go for. So it can be, at the end, it's going to be a bit of a calculation to figure out the final award amount. But check eligibilities as well, obviously, on each of those types of awards. We have a number of sponsored or partnered awards. We're going to talk about a few of them today. We actually have more than is even displayed there, but I think it's not necessary for this particular program. But we would strongly encourage people to apply for the sponsored awards. You know, there's a great opportunity associated with them. Not only can you get a Fulbright award, but you can get great agency and connection with the sponsors themselves, who are only delighted to have Fulbright awardees associated with them as well. So again, we would strongly recommend that people on this call give serious consideration to applying for the sponsored awards. Some of those sponsored awards we're going to talk about today. It's a Fulbright EPA, Environmental Protection Agency Award, and that's for students and scholars. So it can be 4 to 10 months or 3 to 10 months. A lot of the detail is going to be available on our website, fulbright.ie. The other award that's important in the area is our long-standing award, also with Geological Survey Ireland. And again, that's in geoscience, and it's for 3 to 6 months for a scholar, or 4 to 6 months for a student. And the last one is we have 2 awards from Teagasc as well, and that's they're more broken down. So we've got a student and a scholar award. The 2 above that, Fulbright EPA and Fulbright GSI, they're also available for a student and a scholar. Again, you got for the Teagasc award, you got 4 to 6 months, or 3 to 6 months if you're a scholar. So taking a little bit of a deep dive, or more of a dive into the EPA award, you know, the areas that are of interest are climate change, health and environment, natural environment, green and circular economy, and it's open to student and scholar. You must be Irish or citizen, or EU UK citizen living in the Republic of Ireland for the past 5 years. This isn't open to professionals, so it is only at the student or scholar being postdoctoral or a professional doctorate level. So the opportunity is to look at these different areas. Please also take a look at the EPA policies and priorities when you're considering this. And you know, there's a lot of bandwidth and a lot of scope to apply onto this particular award. The next award, again, it's been a great long-standing award, and that's the Geological Survey of Ireland. And really, the areas that they're interested in is all fields of geoscience and related climate science topics. So again, there's a great broad spectrum that you can consider applying under, and we would suggest that you also take a look at the gsi.ie website, which will give you other information and maybe spur some ideas for application in this. I can say that GSI are very, very open to diverse projects from many different areas that maybe are associated with this, but please do take a look at their website. And again, they were very proactive and very interested and engaged in the Fulbright aspect of this, plus the connection to their sector. So they're very interested in supporting applicants in their sector as well. And the last long-term award we've been working with was it's Fulbright Teagasc. That award is for a student and it's also for a scholar. So there's two different awards that you can apply for there again. It's for the student, it's 4 to 6 months. For a scholar or a professional, so this is open to professionals, it's for 3 to 10 months. Again, a similar type of eligibilities apply. The areas really, again, and you can see this from Teagasc website themselves for their pillars: agriculture, food, forestry, and environment. And they're interested in certain themes as well: developing sustainable food systems, addressing climate change, or harnessing the potential of big data. Those areas are particularly welcome, but they're not absolutes. So again, we and Teagasc are very interested in looking at a broad spectrum of applications in the area. And I would say through all of these programs, I'd say there's a particular interest in a generic technical aspect of research. So kind of deep dive research into the kind of technical aspects of these kind of areas are in particular very interesting to both the program, Fulbright program, and to our sponsors, partners. But again, it is very open to a broad spectrum of applications. Your application requirements, well, you're going to make it through a system. So you start off on our website, and that will lead you, give you guidance, and that will lead you through to the Slate online system, where it's a US system where you will make your application online. It very much leads you through the process. The guidance that we give you very much leads you through the process. So there's a lot of how-to and advisory as you go through the process. Very often the actual application system is quite straightforward anyway. But where you have queries, you'll probably find 99% of the answers will be in the guidance we provide you. If you find that 1% that's not covered, then absolutely, please do reach out to the Commission to awards@fulbright.ie, and we should be able to promptly get back to you with an answer for that. You're going to provide your personal information and CV, standard standard for most applications. A little bit different then is our Fulbright statement, personal statement. That's very much more about you and why you're going to the States and why you want to do Fulbright and what it means to you. And that's a little bit different. That takes a little bit of thinking and time aside. And it's a great opportunity as well to talk this out, to plan, reach out to other people, particularly those maybe who've gone through this process as well. Talk to a Fulbrighter. We have 3 on today, and there are lots of others that you will find. So that's a great opportunity to take a little bit of time out and consider that. Your project statement, that's probably going to be the easy part in a sense for most people in academia, that you will understand the area that you want to work in. But again, take the opportunity to explain that out and tie it in with why it's important and why it's impactful. If you're applying for a sponsored award, you'll need to complete a sponsored award form. And that's really just a linkage to why this particular sponsorship and maybe why the agency and the areas that they're working in is important. But that's not it's only a supplemental small form. You will need 3 recommenders. They should be professional recommenders in the sense that if you're working in academia, they should be people who from academia who know you well and know your capability. If you're a student, again, it might be outreach to a lecturer or head of college, those type of people. Failing that, if you have somebody in a professional capacity that you've worked with before, you can do that. If you're professional and it's quite a while since you've been at a university, then your professional colleagues in different areas will suffice for the three recommenders. If you're an artist, you can provide art samples of work. Typically, that's a link to somewhere that we can view them, but if you have to send in your samples, that's okay as well. We can manage that. And the last thing is, it's not an absolute requirement, but it can be very useful if you have a letter of affiliation, particularly if you're going as a researcher or you're going a scholar to lecture. Really, that's where you've reached out and they've given you some advisory. This is useful for you as well, so that you know that they are actually behind the opportunity that you wish to take up. If you're a student applying, we do understand that it could be some months before you know that you're going to be accepted on a course. What you should do is obviously advise us on the courses that you've applied for, and we will talk to you about that, particularly when you get to an interview stage. Your project proposal, why is your work groundbreaking, interesting, useful to you, all of that stuff. Groundbreaking doesn't actually have to apply there, but it's why is it important? Rationale again for going to the United States, why not another country? Why does it have to be the USA? Identify the specific areas of focus where possible. You know, if you have a course that you want to attend, that's great. It might be a little bit broader. It might be, you know, a law degree. Well, probably not in this program, but it could be on environmental law. Identify the specific areas, explain your objectives and your expected results. I think this is pretty bog standard for most people. Then a little bit about the impact will this have on your discipline, but also your career, where you want to go. These are things we're very interested in. And that was a segue across into your Fulbright statement. You know, it is very much about you personally. Please do tell us about you. This is a big part of the program. Personal, professional ambitions, motivations, all that sort of stuff. What you hope to achieve in the US for you and upon your return. And again, coming back to the role of benefit of being a Fulbrighter. So that's easy to find. Go talk to people as well. Please do not rehash your study objective. This shouldn't be about you through the prism of your work. It really should be about you. So this is an indication as well of your communication skills. So consider that as you're doing it. And that hint is very important. In Fulbright program, we invest in people. To a large extent, we're not discipline specific. Because we support all disciplines, we're kind of discipline agnostic. Who do you want to work with? Where do you want to go? These are all important things to consider. You know, don't be necessarily blinded by the big name that you might hear in terms of marketing of universities, but consider where you want to go. It's a big country. It's over 3,000 institutions that you could work with. There may be research stations as well, a couple of hundred research stations and centres associated with that in addition. So a huge range of opportunities. We do like to understand why you're going to somewhere. It's not just, I know this is a very popular university, so I want to tick box. It should really make sense to you. So it's very much about you crafting your own story and why this very much makes sense to you. And the other thing is when you are reaching out and talking to people, do tell them from the outset that you're applying for a Fulbright award. This is something that means something to your colleagues in the United States, whether it's you're applying for a particular course or whether you want to reach out to a research group or an institution and say, I'd like to spend time there. They will know about Fulbright, and frankly, they're going to be a little bit impressed that you're applying for a Fulbright award. So there are no downsides in that. It's a great segue. So from the very outset, do please say that. You know, it should make sense to you so that you can explain it to everybody else, including those that you want to research with. If you consider that you have a basic premise, start that conversation with them saying, I'm thinking of applying for Fulbright. I'm thinking we could work in this area or we can overlap in this area and go from there. But you also need to tell us then, I need to go there because. So that's going to be a question that we will be looking at in your application. But subsequently, if you come to interview, we're going to be really looking at why do you really need to go here and to that particular institution or to work with those people as well, and why the States and why Fulbright. So getting on to continuing with the process then, I mentioned there's a review stage. At the review stage, we're looking for obviously eligibilities and we will look at your plan to see, does it make sense? We look at the, technical feasibility of that. That's where you're submitting a research plan. If you're submitting to go on a course, we're looking again at your kind of track record and, the value that this will bring to you and why does it have to be the States with components of that. And we will also be looking at the elements of cultural engagement and leadership or potential leadership as it can be displayed in your application. If you're called for interview, then it kind of flips around a little bit. And whilst we will look at your academic and professional record and look at the area you're going to work in, it'll be more in a non-discipline expert area because it will already have been at the review phase looked at in a more technical expertise space. But then it's going to be really questions about you, about the cultural engagement, your leadership, the impacts, what you're going to get from your time in the States, where it's going to take you, what you think you're going to bring there, and what you think you're going to bring back home. So please do consider that. And again, this is framed through your experience and what you want to get from it. It shouldn't really be driven through the prism of the work that you're going to do there. That's important, but it's not the most important thing. So we will always be trying to get to see the person behind the application and where the value is for you in applying for a program like Fulbright. As I said, we invest in people. We do represent candidates from all walks of life. We are looking to foster merit-based excellence while honouring the unique contributions of every individual. Again, it comes back to that comment. Please do tell us about you. We really want to see the individual and all the aspects of that individuality. Everybody has multiple of aspects, and it's very useful. And it was very heartening to have conversations with people from so many broad areas of life. So your resources, there are many, but key ones would be talk to Fulbright ambassadors in your institution if you're associated with one. There are lots of alumni videos and testimonials. We have lots of webinar videos as well that you can find, including this one. You should hopefully get some support at your HEI, your university or college. You can look at Fulbright affiliate groups. So they're already in those, there are many different areas. You can go onto our website and find information. We're not quite at AI level yet, but who knows in the future, you could maybe come and talk to an AI about Fulbright as well. So just getting closer to the end of this part of the conversation, congratulations if you watched this or you've been on this call now today. You're part of the group where 90% of those who are successful have actually attended a Fulbright roadshow. And that statistic seems to be holding steady over the last 5 years. So again, it's a useful thing to have listened and maybe absorbed the conversation and some of the information presented here. And obviously, you'll get an opportunity to listen to our alumni in a minute. And what they have to say is very important as well in terms of crafting the experience and all of those more esoteric things that I said, why it's important to you and why the States and why this institution. So all of those parts, it's not just about the work or the study you're going to do. It's the broader questions I think are nearly more important. So hopefully, I know that our alum are going to speak, will really give you a sense of that as well. And that is the connection back to 50% of those who started but did not complete an application didn't engage in any supports. Now, sometimes people get to a point saying, you know what, I've had a look at this and now realize it's not the right time for me, or actually I don't need to go to the States or to this course. And that's a fine outcome because you've got to that point. But sometimes people are looking and say, well, I don't know, what do I really mean? What does this mean? How do I progress this? That's the best time then to seek support, not to step away from it, but actually to seek support and say, well, what does that mean? And all of the different supports we mentioned. And the next slide will have additional lines of connection as well. In terms of the United States, you're pushing an open door. Fulbright is very, very well known, and this time as well, I think now is a great time to apply because our colleagues were very accepting and very engaged with you coming from Ireland to go to the US. So it's a great time to actually go to the United States and engage with your peer-to-peer, people-to-people interactions. And finally, you are joining a Fulbright family, which is can be a great thing. It can last for your lifetime. You can step in and out of it as you wish. Once a Fulbright alum, always a Fulbright alum. There's so many opportunities, and let that alum relationship work on your behalf. Put it in your on your LinkedIn profile, things like that, and other alum will find you. So it's a great opportunity. It works on your own behalf as well. but very much in the Fulbright family, it's like-minded people. So in terms of your next steps, we mentioned really all of the key parts, and I've highlighted there, talk to a Fulbrighter if at all possible. That's really, really useful. It just helps shortcut some of the esoteric thinking that you might have, to kind of focus it down a little bit and say, well, okay, this is how I should think about this. We have lots of information available on Fulbright.ie and our social media channels as well. By all means, follow us there. So that comes to the end of me presenting out. You can certainly find so much more information going to our website and drilling down through all the different awards. And I should say that whilst we have spoken about the awards today, it's the specific awards, the broader spectrum of awards that I did mention, including the All Disciplines Awards, you can certainly have a look at them, because you don't just have to apply to a sponsored award if you're in these areas of agri-food, climate, sustainability, and all that. You can also apply under the All Disciplines Award. Or as I mentioned, you could look at the EU Shuma Awards, which close in December. So there's a multitude of opportunities. Do consider the Tech Impact Award as well, because it's a shorter term award. But if you have an idea for that and you're not sure if it fits, by all means, reach out to awards@fulbright.ie, and we can certainly give you some guidance on that. So I think that's my prompt. I see our first speaker, our first alum, our first Fulbrighter, Mairead O'Donnell, is now live on screen. Mairead, thanks very much for coming today to talk to everybody. You've been on the other side of this, so you're flipping around full circle. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop speaking and I'll move on to slides. You just tell me next slide when you need to go to the next slide. Thanks very much.
Hi, thanks, Dara. Yeah, I'm not sure how the slides are going. I might just keep chatting and you could flick through them, or yeah, we'll see anyway.
Sure.
But hi everyone. I'm a researcher in Trinity College Dublin, and I just recently submitted my PhD as of last month, so I'm waiting to defend now at the moment, next month. And I did my Fulbright this time last year. I just started it this time last year as part of my PhD research. So I went to New York City last September, and it was pretty amazing experience, I won't lie. I was a bit hesitant and nervous at first, if I'm being completely honest. I wasn't sure what to expect. So I went to the new school, to the Urban Systems Lab, who have since changed to NYU. But I went over there for 6 months, research based within New York City with communities on the ground. And my experience was absolutely incredible. I met so many amazing people. What I instantly realized was that New York is such a hub, especially just within the development and academia space. And I arrived when it was the UN General Assembly Week and Climate Week. So it was really incredible. There was activities being announced that were about with people that I've been reading for years, and they were all in New York. So I got to go to different events. Then, as part of Fulbright, they organized different events like the one on the screen here, which was a Volunteers Day with the food bank in New York. And these were all other Fulbrighters, past and present at the time. And we all got together. So there was lots of these kind of events to build this network within Fulbright, which was really lovely. The other Fulbrighters were all very incredible people, very capable people that were really open to making friendships. And I think that was a really good part of the experience, was that openness of everybody to make friendships and build connections, and was very useful when you're away. So I did that with quite a few Fulbrighters while I was over there. These are just some pictures then from my stay there. I was there in the height of winter, which was obviously very cold, but it was amazing. And then on the right was part of my research in North Brooklyn on urban wild spaces. So as part of this, I was also asked to talk about application tips. So a lot of it was kind of what Dara was saying, was like, obviously it has to be scientifically sound. Sorry, I brought my dog and my partner with me, which is very important. That was a huge asset on the trip. And there's my dog in the office from the new school overlooking the skyscrapers. It was great. And there's a Yulia, another Fulbrighter, and that was Thanksgiving. We spent Thanksgiving together. But back to the application tips, we were what I really noticed was that they were really interested in the personal aspect of it, which I really liked. I started off by reaching out to a Fulbrighter that I knew within Trinity College Dublin, and they gave me lots of tips about the application process. I also reached out to the new school beforehand. So I had met those contacts within the new school in Urban Systems Lab at a conference before. So I reached out to them and mentioned I'm interested in doing the Fulbright. The minute they heard Fulbright, they were very interested within it, very supportive. So I actually got a recommendation letter from them, which I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure that strengthened my application, that I had a letter from them saying that they would like to work with me. And when I met with them, I did a full presentation. I was very prepared with the research that I wanted to do with them. And so that went very smoothly. And I definitely think it enhanced my application. Um, and yeah, oh, these are other Fulbrighters here that were there at the same time. So I got very involved in events within the local community because that was part of my research. So we did volunteer days. There's one there in McGolran Park. And then on my last day before I returned home, we walked the length of Manhattan. So all these experiences really stood out to me. This was just a beautiful picture, and you can see the green spaces below was actually my case study sites. Yeah, just incredible memories from there. So then also I wanted to reflect on how Fulbright has impacted my career and what it means that I actually did this process. And as I'm only entering my postdoc stage now, I'm still yet to find out how it has impacted, but I can already tell that it's quite positive. When I mentioned that I've completed a Fulbright scholarship to other people, particularly Americans, but also within the global context as well, I get very positive responses. It's very highly regarded, and people are very interested within the experiences and the type of research that I conducted during my Fulbright stint. So I think it will only benefit me going forward. And it was this Fulbright team themselves were just so incredibly helpful and supportive throughout the whole process. So thank you all as well. And if anyone has
Right.
questions, please reach out to me.
Actually, there's one question I just wanted to field past you first, Mairead, just about the process of bringing a partner. How did you find that process, and did you
Okay.
go through a visa process, or how long were they there for?
So I got very lucky. Um, as far as I'm aware, you have to be married, and we are not married for him to come on my visa. That may be incorrect, but he actually went on his own visa and he works remotely, so was able to he stayed for 3 months while I did the 6 months. And that was a very smooth process for him. But I think to go for the full process and to go on each other's visas, there's a lot more to it. And for us, that was the easiest route, was to go over on the holiday visa, have the proof that he was coming home again and he wasn't staying and there was no issues. And if anyone needs to bring their dog, I'd highly recommend it because it made a huge difference to the entire trip. And it's a very dog-friendly city if they're going to New York.
Excellent. Yeah, actually, a lot of people, their partners will come over just for a period of time because they have their own lives back in Ireland as well. But thanks, right? Listen, thanks very much for that. It was very much appreciated. And our next Fulbrighter, I'm delighted to have John Francis O'Grady as well to speak for us today.
Yeah, thanks, Dara. So, yeah, like Mairead, I did my Fulbright research project last year in the University of Colorado in Denver, the Mile High City in Western United States. So, like Mairead as well, I've just finished my PhD, so I'm waiting to defend that. So, I think I'll just go through this in chronological order about how I applied for it, my experience as a Fulbrighter, and then what impact being a Fulbrighter will have and has had so far for my career. So I suppose the first thing is to identify your host. So I went to Dr. Casey Green's lab in the University of Colorado, and I contacted him about 4 months before the deadline, so in July 2023. And the reason for that is to make sure that they're willing to take you on, that they're interested in the project that you are proposing. And I suppose it also gives you a rationale as to why you want to go to the United States. So we identified a gap with a research question that we weren't able to answer with our expertise, either within our own research group or in our university or in Ireland. Whereas Casey, Dr. Casey Green, he had the experience to help us and provide a complementary outlook, an answer to our question. So he was the ideal candidate to pick. And I suppose that leads me on to, I suppose, the application process. So just this picture here was taken from a part of the project plan that I implemented into the project plan, which involved research, impact, and dissemination. So this is towards the end of my Fulbright in the University of Massachusetts, in just about an hour and a half from Boston, where I showcased and provided kind of disseminated the research that I did in Colorado to other researchers that are interested in bovine tuberculosis and human tuberculosis. So if you want to go to the next slide, so I suppose just with respect to the application, I would really focus on the personal statement. I think I went through about 4 or 5 drafts of that. Stick to the page limit that the Fulbright guidelines advise. Really, that's about you and why Fulbright should pick you to go abroad and forge links and represent Ireland on the international stage. Also, this picture is actually Dr. Casey Green's lab, so you can see the Rocky Mountains in the background. So yeah, drinking hot cocoa every morning, looking out at those was really the best view imaginable. I'd also, with respect to the application, contact your referees early to make sure that they're willing to provide a letter of support and recommendation, and that they are relevant to your, I suppose, research visit. And in that regard, I would also, with respect to the personal statement, contact previous Fulbright alumni. So I contacted the next speaker, actually, Dr. Connor Hammersley, who provided me with a lot of input about, what should be included in a personal statement to make it, really successful and stand out amongst the other applicants. So if you want to go to the next slide, with respect, I suppose, to also, I suppose, contacting the researchers in Colorado earlier, like Mairead, allowed me to get a letter of affiliation, and that undoubtedly really strengthened my application, because it shows to the Fulbright Commission that you have all your ducks in a row, and that you are organized and committed to getting this application through and fulfilling it, and as are the colleagues who you'll be collaborating with on the US side. So these are just a couple of pictures. Colorado is based in Western United States, in the mountainous region around the Rockies, but bordering it are great, outdoor national parks in states like New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, San Diego, and these are just some of the pictures from a road trip I took during Christmas and the New Year. It's very easy to rent cars in the United States, even if you have, just a standard Irish driving license. So particularly in Colorado and these Western states where public transport isn't great, renting a car really allows you to go around and see all of the beautiful natural views that the US has to offer. And also, I suppose, I stayed in an Airbnb, a long-term Airbnb accommodation, which also included permanent renters who were my age. So, we forged really close bonds in Denver, which allowed me to go to, their Thanksgiving ceremonies, and I was grateful that they brought me along as the outsider. But also we went to NBA games, and hockey league games, and really having them as well allowed me to travel right around Denver and nearby cities, which really immersed me in the United States culture. And also particularly during the election, having people to talk to about the results, etc., was really interesting, and sharing. I suppose that culminates in this. We also had an election around the time of the US presidential election, so that also kind of provided a good outlook between both Ireland and the US, and I suppose the commonalities and differences between the two electoral systems. And I suppose in the United States, you're able to travel quite cheaply via air. And during the St. Patrick's weekend, I flew to Washington to meet my sister, and just by chance ended up in the same restaurant as Micheál Martin, the An Taoiseach, and a load of other Secret Service agents. So it was great to talk to him about the Fulbright experience and what it means to be a Fulbrighter. So I think that's everything at the moment. So if you have any questions, email me or link up with me on LinkedIn. But happy to help with anyone with their application process or provide some tips and feedback.
Many thanks, John Francis. I'd say that was a good story anyway, your conversation with Taoiseach at the time. So that's a one for the memoirs. Thanks very much. Delighted to have our third speaker, Conor Hammersley. Conor, thanks a million for coming today and sharing your wisdoms. So move on to yourself.
Yeah, no problem at all, Dara. Hello, everyone. So my name is Conor Hammersley, and I was a 2022-2023 Fulbright Scholar. So I was based at Columbia University, and between a partnership program with Columbia and Bassett Medical Center, which is based in central New York State. So I had a unique experience between New York City, and for those of you who don't know New York is actually a very rural state that goes all the way, obviously, from Long Island up to the border at Canada. I spent a lot of my time in central New York State, and my area of specialty is in rural sociology, where I looked at masculinity and rural men's mental health specifically. And I actually work now. The job that I do now is a follow-on from my Fulbright work. I work with the New York Center for Agricultural Medicine and Health. And I suppose just in thinking about this and reflecting back on my Fulbright experience, like Mairead and John, from a personal and professional perspective, and I think it's kind of summed up in this quote here. I just couldn't have imagined, I suppose, the trajectory that it would have taken me on. And I just think for you at this point, when you're thinking about your application, it's well worth putting the time into it and starting early. And I like that slide that Dara showed at the start about starting on your own and then bringing your early community together around your application to help develop that. It'll make it a hell of a lot easier, and it'll really just strengthen it. And then just like, I think building on some of the stuff that John and Mairead spoke about, I think I could speak about the personal and professional experiences all day, but I think what you need to think about if you're serious about applying for this is you need to think about it through the essence of Fulbright and what Fulbright is about. And obviously there is the kind of the personal award of getting this, which is really significant, but there's also then the aspect of what you can bring to the Fulbright culture and community. And I think that is just central, that you bring that forward and you really like reflect on that and the essence of what Fulbright is about. And thankfully, a lot of that is the more fun stuff of Fulbright, that cultural engagement side of it. And being part of the Fulbright community and bridging kind of cultural, as maybe we might call them barriers or whatever, cultural bridges between other communities and other Fulbright students in the places that you go to, and really just embracing that aspect of it. And I was just like thinking that if I was at this stage and what in terms of whether I'm thinking about applying or not, what would be useful for me would be to just start early, start the process early. And if you're thinking about going for it, you're doing the right thing at the moment by attending these things. And then I would say just fully commit to it that you're going to go for this. And I would say make your supervisors aware if you're a PhD student or maybe you're a master's student, maybe there could be a professor within your university that you've a good kind of relationship with. Make someone like that aware that you're going for it and that you'd like them to review maybe drafts of your project statement or your personal statement and get feedback from that. And I would say the next aspect then is reach out to a host professor or a host school that you might like to join and try and build a collaboration with them early. And if you can get a referral letter from them that they'll be happy to support your application, I think that looks really good for the Fulbright reviewers. And then the last aspect then in terms of reaching out, as John said, John reached out to me, and I actually remember reaching out to a previous Teagasc Fulbright, who's Shane O'Donnell too as well, for advice and support about just their experience of applying too as well. And you do really get a stronger sense of the essence of Fulbright when you reach out to alumni. And just from my experience, you might think there's a lot of work involved in it now. I do think it's well worth your time putting your best foot forward for it at the moment. And I would say it's well worth it. Yeah. Every aspect of it is well worth it going forward. And if I can be of assistance to anyone, I'd be more than happy to do that. So that's pretty much it from me, Derek.
Connor, thank you very much. Actually, you just touched on a point I was going to make at the very end as well, is to say that, I've heard this back from many, many people, including applicants who are not successful, to say that it was never a waste of their time in going through the application process, because there's so much that you can gain from just the process itself and the consideration for what you want to do and where you want to go. And it's the same information you can use for a job application, for going to another program, or just considering the work you want to do. So it tends to be a very useful process. And the other part, I think all of our all of the alum today was kind of touched on, is that ambassadorial aspect of it.
Right.
You're an ambassador for yourself, you're ambassador for Ireland, you're ambassador for maybe the school you're coming from. Then you become an ambassador for your host as well. You become a kind of an ambassador for the States when you come back to Ireland as well, and the experience you've had there. And you're ambassador for a program like Fulbright, and if you're connected to say a sponsored award, you're kind of a special type of ambassador as well to
Right.
maybe to Teagasc or to EPA or to GSI, and they're delighted to engage with you, and can continue the relationship. That'll always be there. But it's an interesting place because you're placed in a kind of an ambassadorial role at multiple levels as well, and that can be quite different,
Mhm.
And if you go back to like Connor, maybe you're in a US institution, but if you go back to Ireland and you're in an Irish institution and you're connected there, you kind of become that ambassador as well. That people who are either interested in the US or in Fulbright, or just in the experiences that you have or the connections you might have, the network you have, you become a bit of a lodestone for some of that as well. So it's quite an interesting space to be in, and
Right.
quite satisfying, I think. And they're all the additional things, outside of the work that you're going to do. It's all of those additional aspects. I genuinely have heard from many, many applicants say, what, it was well worth doing this. And the people on the call today, if they hadn't have stepped up, if they hadn't done it, then they wouldn't have had the experience. So
Right.
it's the simple thing. Is it a national lottery said, if you're not in, you can't win? But it's very true, so there's nothing to lose.
Right. And I would just say to that to your point, Aaron, I just saw one of the questions in the chat there about, the political context in the States at that moment. And I'd make the point that it's never been more important, the Fulbright program in terms of that ambassadorial role and building connections, and that in that kind of face-to-face way, that is really at odds with kind of the turmoil that you might see online or whatever. And the reality of it is much different than what you might think it is on the
Well,
ground.
this is what we hear. Like, the world is going on as
Right.
practically normal. It's,
Right.
it's standard. Listen, I think we're going to finish up at that point. And thank you very much to our speakers today. That was great to hear. I think probably a lot of people who are on the call or who watch this
should be able to see themselves in near space as well, and understand that it's eminently doable. It's an easy thing to start and apply, and the outcomes can be fantastic from it. So it's why not do it? And I would say to people, if you get through the process and realize, you know what, it's not for me this year, that's perfectly fine. Apply next year. If you do apply and unfortunately not successful, that's perfectly okay as well. That is not any way a failure. We do get people who apply multiple times and very often are successful. And in the US, that's very much an expected thing, applying for it. The last thing I'd say is that people will be a little bit impressed they're applying for a Fulbright award, full stop. So many positives. But again, thanks to everybody, and thanks to Aoife for managing the webinar today. We look forward to seeing your applications going through, and take care to everybody else.